Wind tunnel research helped produce a whole new generation of aircraft. The V-bombers. The Valiant. The Vulcan. And the Victor. 3 very different bombers with a common destructive purpose.
The story of the V-bomber is intimately linked to the story of Britain's view of itself in the world. In the late 40s, the British, in order to remain an independent great power, they decided to embark upon creating their own nuclear weapons. If they're going to create their own nuclear weapons, they had to have a way of delivering them. So what did they do? Well, in a way, they went back to the tried and tested formula of the Second World War.
In the war, 3 heavy bombers, the Lancaster, Halifax and Stirling, had pulverized Germany. Now the new generation, Valiant, Vulcan and Victor, could strike a nuclear hammer blow against the Soviet Union. But why did the Air Ministry, in a seemingly extravagant move, go for 3 different V-bomber designs?
The ministry decided to go for 3 because the first deck, the Valiant, quite straightforward and simple and could be produced quickly, whereas the more advanced ones, the Vulcan and Victor, were to be proceeded with until it was clear that one of them was the better aircraft. And in the end, the ministry went for all 3 because all 3 worked.
Absolutely incredible as you think about it now, the way things are and the way they were then.
It's all fantastic.
The largest, heaviest and most aerodynamically advanced of the V-bombers was the Victor. With its otherworldly crescent-shaped tail and wings, the Victor was massive. Its enormous 110 feet wingspan and distinctive cockpit gave it a predatory presence.
I think to this day, the Handley Page Victor is one of the most evil-looking aircraft I've ever seen. If you wanted a plane which looked like something out of 1950s science fiction, it was the Victor.
A bomber with an incredible range of 6,000 miles, the Victor was powered by 4 thunderous Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire engines. The pilots could call upon a mammoth 40 tons of thrust to get this monster into the air. But when it comes to making a lasting impression, there's one V-bomber head and shoulders above the rest.
The Vulcan really is an iconic symbol, I suppose. Everybody knows about the Vulcan. This strange delta shape, unheard of.
No bomber had ever had a shape like this.
It was like a great black bat, with the wheels extended almost like talons. A fantastic sight.
The Vulcan was designed and built by the same company that produced the great Lancaster bomber, Avro.
Now the world's first delta-wing 4-jet bomber, the Avro Vulcan.
And there was no better man to show it off than Avro's chief test pilot, Rowley Falk.
Immediately I got into her, I knew that I'd got absolute confidence and...
Brilliant man, a wonderful test pilot and a great salesman. He used to fly in a grey pinstripe suit, never wore overalls, and at Farnborough, which was very important, he would have lunch with a customer and then he would dash out in his pinstripe suit and get into the Vulcan and fly, and he always flew immaculately.
Everybody's used to bombers droning along, laboriously getting into the air like sort of flying pigs. This thing just sort of leapt off the ground. It was incredible.
At the 1955 air show, Falk did what no one had ever done with a heavy bomber. He rolled the Vulcan. The crowds loved it, but Falk was given a ticking off. He was told this was inappropriate behavior for a bomber. By the time the Vulcan entered service with the RAF in 1956, Tony Blackman was joining Avro as a test pilot. He, like Falk, once wowed the crowds at Farnborough.
Now you must turn at once to Tony Blackman. There he goes. He's now on the top of the loop. He's over the top and he's rolling out.
Huge bomber it may have been, but the cockpit is surprisingly cramped. As well as 2 pilots in the front, the back had to fit in a navigator radar, navigator plotter, and electronics officer.
It's amazing to be back. Nothing's changed. Just slightly harder, perhaps, climbing up the steps. I used to do it a bit quicker. And of course, the flight deck is so small. A large aircraft with a minute flight deck with a stick, and it was just like a fighter, really.
The Vulcan served in the RAF for an impressive 28 years, even flying missions in the Falklands War in 1982. But there's now only one in the world that still flies, and it's based at Doncaster Airport. It's an important day for XH558. She's going to do a special flypast over a gathering of former V-bomber crews.
When you taxi out, of course, the power is very low and there's not very much noise, and you don't really appreciate what a powerful machine you're handling. It all seems so tame. And then, of course, when you open up the power, it takes a little time for the engines to accelerate. And if you open up to full power on the brakes and then let go, it's absolutely fantastic, the acceleration rate.
The power in the 301 engines was so enormous because you had 4 engines, 20,000 pound static thrust each, and the Vulcan dry only weighed just over 100,000 pounds, so that's why the Vulcan would go. You get this tremendous kick up the backside, I suppose, like driving a racing car.
Vulcan, you clear manoeuvre.
Beautiful airborne, the Vulcan triggers vivid memories for those who spent long hours on the flight deck.
It was a typical Avro aircraft. It was black inside and had the Avro smell of a mixture of hydraulic fluid, fuel and vomit.
And those engines have a sound that anyone who's ever heard a Vulcan before instantly recognizes.
Yeah.
Quite well there, couldn't you? We reckon he was about 800 feet, I think. Yeah, something like that. We call happy days, I suppose, happy days. Really.
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic, yeah.
Nostalgic.
But these bomber crews had a deadly serious job. Anthony Wright flew all the V-bombers. He spent most of the 1960s practicing for nuclear war with the Soviet Union.
I was 21 when I first was responsible for my nuclear weapon in my aircraft. It was a Cold War. They were against us, we were against them, and if they were going to hurt us, then I'd do the same to them.
Practice missions with dummy bomb drops were carried out over areas of mainland Britain that replicated Soviet territory.
So if you went on a mission east, you'd go high, first of all, and then you go down below the Russian-Polish radar, go in and drop your nuclear weapon, and come back. And that was it, really.
We always felt that the massive destruction that could be dealt by the V-bombers would have been so colossal that no one in their right minds would even think about attacking this country.
I'm very proud to have flown the V-bombers. My father was in bombing command during the war, and he was only too pleased to bomb Germany, same as I had no problem whatsoever to bomb Russia if I had to.